Hi there, and welcome to the lesson, Solving Division Expressions Using Partial Quotients. Please don't let the vocabulary intimidate you. We're here to help you. What is our goal for this lesson? You're going to understand how to divide using partial quotients. Now, that term, partial quotients, might be a little intimidating, but I think if you follow along through the lesson, you're going to find that it is extremely helpful, and it's a great strategy to use for tracking your thinking when you're doing division. Now, if you're still struggling with the standard algorithm right here, that's okay. Make sure as we go through the video, you write down your questions, because your goal, keep this in mind, is to be right here at a level 3. And using partial quotients might help you do that if you've been having trouble with the standard algorithm, because partial quotients is a helper for the standard algorithm. And you'll get to see what that means. And remember that the algorithm is the way that we solve an expression. And there's more than one. Here we have our mathematical practices. We try to remind you over and over again how important your thinking is when you're doing math. During this lesson, you will make sense of problems, and I hope that you will persevere in solving them and not just give up. You're going to use your reasoning skills. What do I know about this particular topic? And I think about what makes sense. And you also should be able to talk and explain your thinking, maybe to someone in your family or even to yourself. And we should always, always, always be looking for patterns or connections between numbers. We can look at the structure of an equation, and we can also look for repeated reasoning. Repeated reasoning, an example of repeated reasoning would be something like, oh, okay, I understand that multiplication is repeated addition. Oh, I understand that multiplication and division are inverse operations. Keep all of these things in mind and know that when you're pushing yourself to think this way, you're actually being a great mathematician and you are practicing math exactly the way that you should. So, our question is, how can I evaluate this expression using partial quotients? Remember, evaluate means to solve. And in this lesson and on this page, you're going to learn what a partial quotient is. In order to solve this expression, I'm going to set it up for the standard algorithm. Solving it this way is actually not my best strategy. So I rewrite the problem and I'm going to solve it using partial quotients. Now, when I see 892 divided by 43, I think to myself, well, 43 times 10 is 430. So I'll start there. 892 minus 430 is 462. And I notice that 462 is greater than 430. So I'm going to try 43 times 10 again. And I get 430. When I subtract, I have 32 left. And I notice that I cannot divide 32 by 43. Another way to say that is I know that 43 does not go into 32 and give me a whole number. So I know that 32 is going to be my remainder. But I'm not quite sure what my quotient is. Ha! Yes, I am. Look over here, boys and girls. 10 plus 10 is 20. Our quotient is 20 with a remainder of 32. Easy, isn't it? These numbers over here on the side that we multiplied our 43 by These numbers are called partial quotients. Take a moment, look at this, and think about it. You can even pause the video to let what we just did sink in. Remember, we asked ourselves, 43 times 10 is 430. 43 times 10 is 430. And we use that information to do the standard algorithm. But over here on our right, we have this nice little reminder or picture or even written thought process of what we've done. Asher spent 1,638 hours. Wow, that's a lot. Making life-size origami cranes. Origami. There should be an I there. To set a world record. If he made a total of 42 cranes, about how many cranes did he make per hour? Well, I can tell using cubes that this is our question, and we've circled our numbers, and we should box the action words. How many cranes? We've got a total here, and then we want to know how many. And now we're going to evaluate. I can tell by this question that it is a division question. 1,638 divided by the 42 cranes. These are hours, and these are cranes. So if I divide, I will get the cranes per hour. But I'm not going to solve this horizontally. I need to solve it vertically. Just like in the other problem, I can think to myself, what is 42 times 10? Well, I know 42 times 10 is 420. And I know that's much less than 1,638. So what if I did 42 times 20? That would be 840 because it's double the 40 or the 4 and the 2. Let's try that. 840, which would be 42 times 20 over here. And then I'm going to subtract, and I will have oh boy, this is a lot of regrouping. I am left with 798. Let's try 42 times 10 here, which would be 420. And I'm left with 378. Now I'm going to try 42 times 5, because I know if I do 10, that's going to be more than 378 because that will be 420. So I'm just going to cut the 10 in half and say, okay, what's 42 times 5? And if you need to, you could come over here and use the standard algorithm and do 42 times 5, and you should get 210. What are we going to do now? We're going to subtract, and we get 168. And I'm going to say, okay, let's try 42 times 4. And if I did 42 times 4 over here, guess what I'm going to get? 168. So I'll be left with a 0 here at the bottom. Now, How do I figure out what the quotient is? I'm going to use my partial quotients. 20 plus 10 plus 5 plus 4. Good. It is 39. Asher made 39 cranes per hour. Be sure to pause the video if you need to and rewatch. I'd like for you to try solving this problem on your own using partial quotients. Pause the video. Well, I hope you used similar strategies to solve the problem. If you decided to multiply 12 by 10 and you went through a very long process to solve this problem, that is okay. But hopefully you learned a lot from chapter 1 in understanding that 12 times 100 is 1,200. Hopefully you remember that and you used it to your advantage in this particular problem. Hopefully you know your math facts, and since you know that 12 times 5 is 60, then 12 times 50 must be 600. Boys and girls, everything that you've learned in math up until this point is all going to help you using partial quotients. And here to your right, you have this beautiful strategy that will not only show you what you were thinking, but it'll also show your teachers what you were thinking in attempting to solve the problem. I hope you got it right. Take a look at your scale, decide where you are, and make sure to let your teacher know what your needs are. If you have questions, make sure to write them on your scale. Until next time.